Hello YouTube and World of Tanks fans, this is Ace Stallenbach here, back with another video in my how-to play series, and today we're going to be looking at, you guessed it, the Indien Panzer, the Tier 8 medium tank in the Leopard 1 line. A very, very good tank. I really enjoyed playing my Indien Panzer, so much so that I actually decided to keep it. And there's a lot of fun, cool characteristics that we're going to be looking at in the Leopard 1 and kind of give you some fun, cool strategies and tips I can give you on how to play the tank effectively. The Indien Panzer as a whole is a really good tank, and the reason why it is because it has excellent gun depression, an excellent gun, and it's kind of a good average all-rounder in every other category. It has respectable view range, it has decent mobility, not the fastest, not the slowest, and the armor on it is just average. So in those areas, it just kind of has adequate performance in those areas. It's not going to excel or shine in terms of acceleration, armor, view range or mobility or turning radius or any of that, but the area where it's most important it does well in, which is that it has excellent gun depression, decent armor that when it's angled it can give you it's called really good protection from fire, and it has an excellent gun. The 9cm or 90mm is a smaller caliber weapon than you're going to see on most of the tanks that are at Tier 8. There's only a few other guns that tanks at this tier that actually carry a 90cm. It is kind of smaller on the tree. However, it does make up for being a small caliber round for a little extra penetration, decent pen, a decent accuracy of .34, as I've mentioned before. That is just below that .36 accuracy for the cutoff for being able to snipe with it. And it has an excellent rate of fire of 8.33 rounds per minute. That's really good. It really helps you shell out a lot of rounds. The interesting characteristic about this gun that's going to take some practice, though, to master the Indien Panzer is the aiming time. 2.7 seconds is a little bit longer, and it actually seems to take longer for the gun to actually aim at longer targets than the rate of fire reload time is. So be careful when you're shooting this tank. You may have to take an extra second or two to just kind of wait for that circle or reticule to get down to that smallest, most accurate position so you can fire at those long distance targets. However, it doesn't gimp it in my mind too much. There's been plenty of times where it's been in the heat of the moment, or I've been at mid ranges and I can just get off that shot regardless. It just means at distances you're going to have to be a little bit more precise and a little bit more aware of when you pull the trigger and where your aiming reticule is. But it can be easily mastered, and I wouldn't say it necessarily gimps the tank too much. However, it is something you have to be careful of, because it does mean that you have to keep your tank exposed a little bit more when you're firing. In order to master that and kind of help protect yourself, you're going to have to really make sure that wherever you're shooting from is perfect, preferably a perch of some kind, a high terrain where you can kind of use that gun depression of the gun and also help angle your tank a little bit more, and so you can get a little bit better bounces and stuff. As you can see, the angle on the front hull is pretty nice, and when you angle it even further, it almost can turn into an auto bounce on the proper hill or slope that you're set up on, so you can actually force a lot of bounces. And 90mm armor isn't necessarily the best, but it isn't necessarily the worst. It's kind of 90 on the sides, on both the sides of the turret and the hull, and 90 on the front and the front of the turret, and the front of the hull, excuse me. So it isn't going to do too much in terms of that. The other thing too is its top speed. Top speed wise, the tank goes 50 kph. Again, it's a little bit, it's not necessarily like fast, but it isn't slow. I mean, it's not, you're not going to beat lights or some of the other faster mediums in the game to positions, but nonetheless it is respectable in its speed, and everywhere else it just seems to be decent. It really does seem to be decent. So I kind of set up all the different types of guns you're going to see in terms of from all the different tanks. So let's just go ahead and break them down here and take a closer look at kind of what the stacking competition is for the other tier. It's called 8 mediums, and what they're packing, and kind of compare and take a look. Oop, gotta get that one there. Get this one a little bit over here. And there we go. Okay, so here's the Leopard here. And this gun here is from the Centurion, the T-54, T-44. There's 2 for the T-44, as well as there's 2, I believe, for the T-34-2, which are right here, and then the Object 416, and obviously the Japanese tank. French, they don't have a Tier 8 medium, unfortunately. So taking a look here, you can see that the gun kind of sits in its own. It has a relatively longer aim time, but for the low caliber weapons, but nonetheless, it's not bad. It is faster than the T40-2's 9-point-second aim time on its 100mm, which is kind of close to the same caliber. It does pack a little bit less damage than the 100mm, but at the same time too, it packs more wallop than the Centurion, which has a 230 damage opposed to the 240. Aiming time is a little bit slower. It does get a faster aim time, but the rate of fire is higher. So you can kind of see the tank gun does relatively fall in line. Some of the other guns are a little bit more accurate. Obviously, the 122mm are going to pack a little bit more wallop, but the tank that I think that actually has the best gun overall, probably in terms of statistics, is obviously going to be the Object 416s, with the being a, with the 6.9 rate of fire is not too bad, but the gun just has, it's just decent. I mean, 320 damage for 100mm is pretty dang good. So all around, I mean, in terms of competition, it really seems to fall kind of relatively in line, and I just seem to like the way the gun feels. It feels really good, and you're going to learn some really fun and important tactics when you're playing the Indien Panzer that you're going to be able to employ when you eventually unlock the PTA and the Leopard 1. So I do have some gameplay for you guys today. It was some gameplay I did with some old friends of mine from the LAN center I played with, and it was a perfect example of how you can use this tank in hilly terrain and kind of implement those tactics and how to use it properly. So let's go ahead and check that out. Okay guys, so here we are with my buddies NN Sharma 90 and Rager First, and we are playing an assault, and we are the attacking team on Siegfried Line. Usually I don't like to play these assault modes. The attack and defend modes and assault and encounters are kind of not too high on my favorites list, and mainly it's because I feel like they're not necessarily balanced all the time. It's a little bit harder to do attack and defense with equal tanks. Usually when you're doing, a commander tries to attack an opponent, he likes to have a numerical advantage of some kind. But obviously, because World of Tanks has to be even in terms of the teams, and the benefit of defending seems to outweigh the benefits of attacking, you have the ability to just sit and wait for your opponents to come through. It kind of makes it tough to balance at times, and certain tanks just do immensely better in defense, and sometimes tanks also do immensely better in attack. So here, I'm just going to go ahead and try to move out ahead, and if I remember correctly, because it had been so long since I had played one of these matches, I was just under the impression that we were playing a regular match and kind of spaced here for a second with my buddy NN Sharma 90. And as soon as I pop out and see that there's lights on my left, several TDs up on the ridgeline, I panic, I take a shot, I get off a shot real fast on that T-71 and immediately dip back out. And just like in a panic state. It was pretty hilarious when it happened. I was just like, oh my god, I can't believe I did that. I felt like a real noob. But nonetheless, you can see the gun depression on the tank is pretty good. I'm able to fire over that shot over that hill really well and get a shot on that Bulldog. And you can see the aim time on the gun a little bit longer, but the damage on the gun is fine. I'm being able to pen this Tiger 1 pretty consistently. It is a lower tier vehicle than mine. Even on that awkward angle, I'm still able to penetrate that Tiger 1. And now I can see the Bulldog down below. I decide I'm going to go after it. I fire a little bit on the move and proceed to chase the target down. Try to go for the ram. I miss, plant myself, and finish off the tank. In that exchange, my buddy NN Sharma 90 did end up dying. He wasn't able to get back to cover as fast as I did, so he did end up dying. But we shall continue. So the next thing I'm going to try to do is move underneath this hill and switch to this back flank. The zero column is a great way to pressure enemies that are inside the city if you can get behind them and just kind of make them kind of guess and waste time in terms of deciding who they're going to face and target. And when you're attacking, getting on the flank in Siegfried Line on this map is key, and I find that this point up here, this hill here, is essentially a point that can lock down the entire valley in the back flank. And if you can kind of gain control of this position, you can do a lot better. So again, you can see I'm using the gun depression here. I go for the track shot on that SU-152, and just repeatedly penetrate him, and then just peep over the top, get him one more time, and destroy the target. And just this tank's gun depression does immensely well in hills. You could just kind of outplay your opponents and force them to you know, fight you in situations or try to crust on you because you have such a good angle in terms of where you can fire. And I did a really good job of just schooling that SU in some simple hill combat. So as I get up here on the hill, we have relatively secured it. We've destroyed both that Tiger II and that SU, so that flank is secured. There seems to be no tanks over here, so it's time for us to rush in and see if we can get some shots on those TDs and other heavy tanks that are kind of giving our fighting force up in front a little bit of a difficult time. So I'm just kind of scouting around here, and the first target I see is that REM. The REMs are immensely squishy. They're easy tanks to penetrate. I don't happen to be carrying any high explosive on this tank, so I'm just going to be using the standard 8P shell, but I do manage to get a nice cool ammo rack for 899 damage and destroy that target. Those REMs really do scare me. As much as they're fun to destroy, if they're well camouflaged, they can really mess up your team. And now I see two big key tanks on the enemy team, an IS-6 and an IS-3, and they're well positioned. And now I'm forcing my opponent to guess. The IS-3 on the front is now able to get shots in the rear of the IS-6, and I'm able to pressure both this IS-3 and IS-6 and penetrate it pretty consistently. I'm fighting on level ground, and which is not the best, but nonetheless, the gun penetrates so well, and because I'm able to pressure my opponent and get these key shots, I'm able to really do some work on these targets. And I managed to destroy that IS-3 there. And I don't end up getting the IS-6. My buddy Rager, I think, manages to get the kill on him. And now, with only 2 tanks left, it's clearly going to be a victory. I've done really well on damage, but let's see if we can go ahead and get that Top Gun. And sure enough, there's the T-34. He misses me. I also put my ground in the dirt and miss myself. But my reload is fast enough that I'm able to get off another shot in the time it takes for him to reload, and I get rid of that tank. Now I see the Pershing, it's the last tank left on the map, and I am really after that Top Gun, and my buddy Rager, who has given me a hard time at this time in the channel, is like really angry because I just cut him off there to try to get the last kill. So I think he plays a dirty trick on me, and he tracks me, but I repair it real fast. And I'm a man with a mission. I'm going to get that Pershing down. And as you can see, the tank is not the fastest, and the gun reticule on the move is not the most accurate, but the gun damage is respectable, and I do get ammo rack there. But I run in and get a quick ram and manage to get that Top Gun real quickly. And as a platoon, we ended up getting 8 kills, and I ended up doing 4,153 damage. Not bad. So let's go ahead and look at the endgame statistics. I did have a request recently on the forums asking me to post some of the actual in-game end stats, so let's go ahead and take a look at those. Okay, guys, so here's the end battle reports. As you can see, we have a Top Gun, high caliber, and we ended up getting the lesser medals of Bruiser, Fire for Effect, and Demolition Expert. Overall, we did really well in terms of damage. We ended up doing 4,153 damage in that game, and we fired a grand total of 20 shots, missing only 1, but every single shot that we fired actually penetrated that hit. That goes to show what you can do with this weapon and how powerful of a weapon it can be. And my final thoughts in regards to this tank and things you need to remember and be of note is that the gun does have a slower aim time than usual, so do be a little bit wary of that when you're firing at longer distance targets. Be sure to kind of pause and for an extra second after you've reloaded to make sure that gun has aimed properly. The other thing of note is master hill combat. Master the fact that you have excellent gun depression with this weapon, and this tank excels at distances and from hilly terrain where you have the advantage in terms of height on your opponent. Overall, the gun is really good, has lots of penetration. I think the tank is a good all-rounder and an excellent tank if you like tanks that have all-round stats and also pack the benefit of being able to shoot at distance effectively. Thank you so much, guys, for watching my channel. Be sure to subscribe if you'd like to see more content of this sort. And as always, this is Ace Dallenbach signing off.